Hi, welcome to Using MS-DOS 6.0. During the next hour, we're going to look at many of the features of the powerful Microsoft Disk Operating System. With over 67% of personal computers using MS-DOS, it continues to be one of the most popular operating systems for the home or office environment. Besides explaining how MS-DOS 6.0 works, I'll tell you about some of version 6.0's best features, like doublespace, which allows you to almost double the capacity of your hard disk; MemMaker, which automatically configures your system to make the most of available memory; and antivirus, which will search and destroy those nasty little computer viruses. We'll also look at some of the most helpful DOS utilities, such as DOS Shell, which lets you organize your files and directories through an easy-to-use file manager; and the DOS Editor, which is useful to edit your AutoExec BAT and config.sys files. We'll talk about all these features and much more during our time together. But first, this program is divided into several chapters for your convenience. If you have already reset your VCR to 0 at the beginning of this video, I would urge you to make note of the counter number during the chapter breaks. This way, you'll be able to quickly advance to the chapters you wish to review. In Chapter 1, I'll explain how DOS manages the computer's hardware. Chapter 2 covers the DOS shell. Chapter 3 is an overview of some popular DOS commands. In Chapter 4, we'll cover MemMaker and look at how DOS 6.0 provides better memory management capabilities. And in Chapter 5, you'll see how to increase your disk capacity with doublespace, back up your disk to save your important data, optimize your disk with defrag, and search your disk for any hidden viruses. Let's now look at how MS-DOS controls many of your computer's operations. Ready to get started? Good. Let's first talk about what MS-DOS 6.0, the Microsoft Disk Operating System, accomplishes on a computer and why an operating system is so important. A disk operating system, or DOS, is actually responsible for controlling the computer's hardware. The keyboard, the monitor, and each component of the system is regulated by DOS. Think about the last time you made a phone call. First, you dialed a number. Then you were connected with someone on the other end. This was all made possible by the unseen work of your local telephone operator, or in today's world, the digital electronic telephone operator. A computer system needs a similar operator telling the components inside the computer how to communicate with each other. That's where DOS comes in. With the computer, an instruction or command is entered from the keyboard. You can also select a command using a mouse. The keyboard and the mouse are both called input devices. The Central Processing Unit, or CPU, then processes the information. To see the result of your command, you look at a monitor, which is called an output device. A printer is another type of output device. A floppy diskette or hard disk provides a place to magnetically store programs and information for easy access later. MS-DOS enables all of these components to interface or work together. There's another very important area of responsibility handled by MS-DOS: the organization of all the software programs and file information. DOS organizes the various program and file names in an electronic filing system and stores the information on magnetic disks, which in most cases is your computer's hard disk. To keep the massive storage manageable, DOS designates specific areas for certain files. These areas are referred to as directories. The concept of a directory is an important one to remember. Just as a phone directory contains information that has been organized for easy access, a computer directory organizes electronic data called files for easy reference. Here is a list of directories and files on my computer. A phone directory contains names, addresses, and phone numbers. DOS directories contain file names, file extensions, which tell us what type of file we are looking at, the file size, and the last date and time the file was updated. And just as a directory, such as the Yellow Pages, divides everything into subcategories, such as plumbing or lawyers, DOS lets us subdivide the main directories into more directories called subdirectories. To list the files and directories, we type dir at the DOS prompt and press Enter. The files and directories are displayed. When I type dir, DOS recognizes the command. We'll talk more about the DOS commands in a little bit. In DOS, file names and directory names follow a few guidelines. Names can contain from 1 to 8 characters, but must not exceed 8 characters in length. There can also be a file extension of up to 3 characters in length, which reveals information about the nature of the file. The file name and extension are separated by a period, usually called a dot. File extensions usually reveal information about the file and help identify the type of file in a program. For example, a .wks file extension, for instance, denotes a spreadsheet file. .dbf for database or .txt for text file. The MS-DOS command language includes a few important extensions to be aware of. .exe denotes an executable file. Executable files start programs. .com files are also files that start programs. They are called command files. Both .exe and .com are files that contain command instructions. .sys is the DOS command for system files, which contain information about the system hardware, like the mouse or the keyboard. It helps DOS communicate with the hardware more efficiently. Finally, .bat extensions denote batch files. Batch files contain lists of DOS commands which are automatically performed. MS-DOS actually searches for a file called autoexec.bat each time the computer is started and immediately follows the instructions. If DOS cannot find this file, the date and time prompts appear automatically. A batch file can also be customized any way you want. For more information on batch files and system files, consult your Logic Notes booklet or your MS-DOS 6.0 User's Guide. DOS file names and extensions are important because they help us identify the electronic data stored in the computer. In other words, if we need something, it helps to know what it's called. Besides knowing the name of the data, the location is also important. So how are files located, and where does DOS place data? The same way information is read from a phone directory, disk drives inside the computer read information stored magnetically on floppy or hard disks. MS-DOS calls these disks drives and labels them A, B, C, and so on. We can command the computer to read a disk in a specific location by typing the drive letter followed by a colon, such as A colon. Information can be stored on a variety of magnetic disks, of which there are several different types. Hard disks, which are permanently mounted inside your computer, and removable disks called floppy diskettes, which are usually 3.5 inch or 5.25 inch. To access a floppy disk, it must be inserted into the floppy drive and the door must be properly latched. If you get this message, it usually means the door to your floppy drive is not properly shut, or the disk is in the drive incorrectly. Just type A for abort and correct your floppy disk drive. To look at the files stored on a floppy disk, we will type the directory command dir, followed by a space, and then type the drive letter we want to view, followed by a colon. DOS lists the information stored on the floppy disk. The hard disk in a computer is usually called the C drive. In some computers with large capacity hard drives, the hard disk can be divided into many drives, named C, D, E, etc. Remember, the only way to accomplish a task with MS-DOS is to utilize a command that both DOS and the computer will understand. In other words, you have to tell the computer what you want it to do. And since most of us don't write computer language, DOS acts as an interpreter. That's why MS-DOS is so necessary. The computer will respond to your requests only when appropriate commands are entered as DOS commands. DOS commands can be executed by typing the instruction at the command prompt or by selecting the command from one of the menus in the DOS shell. And speaking of the DOS shell, let's move on to Chapter 2 and look at ways the DOS shell can help with our file management needs. The DOS shell is a graphically visual environment from which accessing the MS-DOS commands or organizing files and directories is really easy. The DOS shell contains a variety of windows which display your file information and directories and pull-down menus across the top of the screen listing several available commands. This makes moving from directory to directory simple and locating specific files faster. Before the DOS shell came along, I had to type in the exact location and file name at the DOS prompt to locate a file. Now with the DOS shell, I can just point and click on the file with my mouse. The shell works best for people like me who are more visual. From the C prompt, type DOS shell and press Enter. Menu titles are at the top, directory tree and file list of the current root directory in the middle, and the program groups in the lower portion of the screen. My favorite way to move around DOS shell is with a mouse. A mouse can be utilized within the DOS shell as long as the mouse COM file is installed and is compatible with MS-DOS 6.0. If your mouse doesn't work, check page 223 in your MS-DOS 6.0 manual. You may need to update your mouse COM file. I can activate each respective window by clicking in that window. The scroll bars on the right of each window allow me to click on the arrows to move the files up or down. If you don't have a mouse, you can move from window to window in the shell with the keyboard. By pressing the Tab key, the adjacent window is activated. Pressing the Tab key again moves the highlight counterclockwise until the targeted window is selected. Then you can make choices within that window. To reverse directions and move the highlight clockwise around the shell, just press the Shift key and the Tab key simultaneously. There are many commonly used DOS commands available in the DOS shell menus. These menus are accessed from the menu bar. Each menu contains a categorical roster of available DOS options. With a mouse, just point to the name of the menu and click the left button. To access the menus using the keyboard, press the Alt key or F10 and the menu bar is activated. Press the left or right arrow keys to select a menu option and press Enter to open the menu. Notice that the menus offer different options depending on which window you are in. These menu options are customized to offer options tailored to the currently highlighted window. To select one of the listed commands, either click on it with a mouse or type the appropriate underlined letter in the command name. Another keyboard method is to use the up and down arrow keys to move through the options until you highlight the desired choice, then press Enter. If an option is dimmed, the particular command cannot be performed at this time. Some DOS commands are only available under certain conditions. For example, we can't choose copy until we've specified what to copy. So if I highlight a file with the mouse and then pull down the menu, those commands which were dim earlier are now available. The three dots following an option are called ellipses. They indicate that a dialog box will appear when that menu item is selected. A dialog box requests information that DOS needs to accomplish the task we just requested. Some dialog boxes contain input areas where you are asked to type in specific information or select from a list of available options. Once a dialog box has been appropriately completed, DOS has the information necessary to complete the task. A diamond next to a menu option indicates that its attribute is active or presently being utilized. Now we can just click on Enter with the left mouse button, or from the keyboard, press Enter. Also, DOS shell displays available keyboard shortcut combinations adjacent to their respective commands. By pressing the listed key combination, the menu task is performed automatically. It's called a keyboard shortcut because the command is performed immediately from wherever you are in the DOS shell. In other words, you don't have to be in a menu. You just press the assigned keys. My favorite is F9. That's the shortcut to view a file's contents. Now let's look at the directory tree. This is the directory tree. It's a visual representation of the directories and subdirectories on this drive and how each is related to the other. To change directories, I just point and click, and I'm in another directory. If I want to change drives, I just click on the drive indicators up here, and it's done. Whenever you look for directories or files, the DOS shell provides an easy way to see the organization at a glance. The DOS shell displays a directory tree on the left, and as the arrow moves down, the appropriate list of files contained in that directory are displayed on the right. Pressing Alt on the keyboard, then the letter V, accesses the View menu. Single file list is what we've been looking at. Assigning dual file lists splits the screen. Now we can choose to compare any two directories by simply clicking on it. The little plus sign next to any directory indicates the presence of one or more subdirectories. Clicking on the plus sign or pressing the plus key displays the subdirectories. This is referred to as expanding the directory. In the Tree menu, the Expand options are listed with shortcut key assignments displayed on the right. Expand All shows us the big picture. Click on the Tree menu again, and Collapse Branch is the only option available since everything is expanded. All directories are collapsed when DOS shell is started. As you can see, there are a lot of files in each directory, and DOS shell gives us some excellent file management abilities. The real advantage of the DOS shell is its ability to manipulate multiple files. By that, I mean we can select several files and perform one task that will apply to all of them at once. Just watch. I'll select a file, hold down the Shift key, and click on a file toward the bottom of the screen. DOS automatically highlights all the files between the first and last. Now we can work with all these files that are highlighted. We can copy all of them or delete all of them. Whatever command we select affects all the files at once. This is a real time saver when copying many files to another directory or floppy disk. We can also highlight multiple files that are not necessarily adjacent to one another. To highlight specific files, press the Control key as you click on file names. All the file names you click on while pressing Control remain highlighted, ready for you to select a command. As before, whatever command you choose now applies to all the highlighted files. If you ever need help, you can press F1 and get context-sensitive help. The DOS shell won't leave you out in the cold. After we look over the help suggestions, we can press the Escape key to resume DOS shell activities. As you see, there are a lot of benefits to performing file management duties from the shell. But DOS 6.0 gives you another advantage when working with a specific type of file or category of files. DOS lets us exercise selectivity and only display files meeting specific criteria. Initially, DOS arranges all the files in a directory alphabetically by name. To tell DOS to be more discreet, we can go to the Options menu for File Display Variations. When the File Display Options is selected, a dialog box will appear. To look for all the files with a txt extension, we would just type an asterisk, which is the DOS equivalent of a wildcard, and .txt. We can then display our sort by name, extension, date, file size, or disk order. I'll choose extension and press enter. Now all the .txt file names are grouped together. Although we haven't covered all of the many features in the DOS shell, it's a wonderful file management utility, and with a little practice, you'll discover many more ways DOS shell can help keep your computer organized and you productive. Just remember, if you get stuck, use the F1 key to get help, and keep your Logic Notes booklet nearby for a quick reference. In our next chapter, we'll look at some of the more popular DOS 6.0 commands. MS-DOS 6.0 is packed full of useful commands which let you do everything from copy and move files to managing your computer's memory and optimizing your hard drive. DOS commands contain sets of instructions which help DOS perform tasks. Although it is possible to accomplish many of the DOS commands from the DOS shell or from within the Windows program, if you learn to type the command from the command prompt first, you'll better understand how the commands work and you'll be able to work on any MS-DOS-based computer. Although there are dozens of useful DOS commands, we'll look at some of the most popular commands listed here. Copy and excopy, delete and undelete, directory, disk copy, edit, format and unformat, help, make or change directory, move, and rename. The first DOS command we'll look at should already be familiar. It's dir, the directory command. This command is useful if you want to look at the contents of an entire drive or a selected directory. From the DOS prompt, type dir and enter. DOS lists all the files and subdirectories located in the directory where the cursor is located. If I type dir space A:, DOS lists all the files on the floppy diskette in my A drive. If I type dir space C:\Windows, DOS lists all the files in my Windows subdirectory. You may have noticed how fast the file list scrolled on my screen. DOS offers us several ways to help correct this problem. Many DOS commands contain switches, which are letters of the alphabet preceded by a /. Switches modify a DOS command operation. If I type dir followed by a / and the letter P, DOS pauses the list each time the files fill the screen. If I type dir /W, DOS displays the list in a wide format. One of the best ways to discover what switches will work best for you is to type help space and the DOS command you are interested in. The DOS help screen will list all the switches for each DOS command. The copy, excopy, and disk copy commands offer 3 different means of copying files from one location to another. The simplest of the commands is disk copy, which copies the entire contents of one floppy disk to another floppy disk of the same size. If your 2 floppy disks are not the same size, DOS will not complete the disk copy. At the DOS prompt, type disk copy space, then type the letter of the source drive, which tells DOS where to look for the information, space, and the letter of the target drive, which tells DOS where to put the copied information, and enter. If your system has only one floppy drive, you can still use disk copy by typing A: for the source drive and A: for the target drive. If your floppies are of a different size, or if you're copying between a hard disk and a floppy, you'll probably want to use the copy or excopy commands. The copy command instructs DOS to duplicate file contents from one location to another. From the DOS prompt, type COPY space, the source drive letter, colon, the name of the file, space, the target location where we want the file copied to, and press Enter. With the copy command, you can also copy groups of files using wildcards. You might remember that wildcards are special symbols that DOS recognizes, specifically the asterisk and the question mark. These characters are substitutes for the letters in a file name or extension. For example, the asterisk or star can represent all the characters in a file name or in an extension. Watch. Type copy C:\\, the directory, *, .txt space A:. Now all the files with a .txt extension will be copied to the A drive. Another wildcard, the question mark, can be substituted for one character at a time. So if we wanted to copy all the text files with real short file names, like a file name with only 3 characters, we could type copy space question mark .txt space A:, and enter. Now DOS copies all the text files in this directory with 3 letters in their file name to the A drive. Perhaps the most useful copy command is xcopy because it lets you copy directories, their subdirectories, and files. Again, to get the most out of the xcopy command, and many of the other DOS commands for that matter, you should learn about switches. When you type xcopy C:\Windows A:, DOS copies all the files from the Windows directory to the diskette in your A drive. If you type xcopy C:\Windows A:/S, DOS will copy all the files in the Windows directory and all the files in the subdirectories under the Windows directory. When you use the /D switch followed by a date, DOS lets you copy only the source files modified on or after the specified date. To find out what other switches are available with xcopy, type help xcopy. DOS displays an explanation of xcopy and down here lists descriptions of all the switches. So far, we have used the copy commands to make duplicate copies of our files. Now let's suppose we want to move a file from one directory to another. We could copy the file to the new directory, then go back and delete the old file, or we could use the DOS move command. To use move, just type MOVE space and the name of the file you want to move, space, and the location where you want the file to be moved. DOS makes a duplicate copy of the file in the new directory, then deletes the old file. Rename lets you change the name of a file. If you type rename space C:\DOS \first space second, rename lets you change the name of a file. As you become more familiar with DOS, 3 additional commands will be very helpful: make directory, change directory, and remove directory. Since the key to a well-organized disk is placing your information into directories and subdirectories, the make directory command is one you'll use often. At the DOS prompt, type MD for make directory, space, and the name we want to call the directory, and press Enter. It's that simple. To move to that new directory, just type CD for change directory and the name of the directory where you wish to move and press Enter. The DOS prompt indicates the directory you are currently in. To move from a subdirectory back to the parent directory, type CD and 2 periods. To move from a subdirectory all the way back to the root directory, type CD and a \. To remove a directory, first make sure you are not in that directory. Then type RD and the name of the directory to be removed and press Enter. To remove a directory, the directory must be empty. In other words, there shouldn't be any files or subdirectories in the directory to be removed. So, to empty a directory, we need to remove or delete all the files in it. To delete a file, type del space, the file name, a period, and the file extension and press enter. To delete all the files in a directory, type del space asterisk dot asterisk and press enter. A warning message appears to remind you that the action you are about to take will delete all files from the directory. You can select yes to continue or no to stop at this point. If you make a mistake and accidentally delete a file, DOS 6.0 has an undelete option. Just type undelete at the DOS prompt, the name of the file, and press enter. Be aware that it's very important to undelete a file as soon as possible after you discover your mistake. As you continue to work with your disk, DOS will eventually replace the deleted files with new file data, and you will not be able to undelete your file. Refer to your logic notes or your MS-DOS 6.0 User's Guide for details. Some DOS commands are used more frequently than others, but there is no command more necessary than the format command. You see, to prepare a hard disk or floppy disk for use on the computer, it must first be formatted. To format a disk, type format, space, the letter of the drive, and press enter. If you are formatting a floppy disk, DOS asks for the disk to be inserted. Just press enter after the appropriate disk is in place. DOS will keep us posted as to the status of the format process. When completed, we have the option to format another. It's important to remember that if DOS formats a disk which already has files on it, DOS erases the old files during the format process. Be careful with this command. There's only one remedy for an accidental format. That is the DOS unformat command. The unformat command is most effective if performed immediately after the mistaken format is complete. To unformat a disk from the DOS prompt, type unformat, space, then the drive letter the disk is in, and press enter. As you can see, MS-DOS 6.0 is full of helpful commands. To discover more helpful DOS commands, type help at the DOS prompt, look in your MS-DOS User's Guide, or refer to the handy logic notes which accompanied this video. If you need to review any of the DOS commands we've covered, pause and rewind this tape. Next, we'll look at some of the wonderful system utilities found in MS-DOS 6.0. There's a lot of room and space. Maybe that's why they call it space. Within most computers, space is very limited, and one of the things that takes up space is memory. Memory, also called random access memory or RAM, provides the temporary storage for your programs and data. All software programs need memory to run correctly, and some software programs use more memory than others. If a program cannot access the required memory, it will either run slower or not at all. Therefore, it's very important to know what type and how much memory your computer has. There are several types of memory available in most computers, and with DOS 6.0, you can find out how much available memory you have and where it is located. Just type mem at the DOS prompt. DOS 6.0 lists the memory type, the total memory available and used, and the amount of free memory available for applications. The following graphic example will help you better understand how your computer uses memory. The first type of memory we'll discuss is conventional memory. All computers these days come with up to 640 kilobytes of conventional memory. This is the base memory all your software requires to run. Another type of memory is called upper memory blocks, which provide 384 kilobytes of additional memory above conventional memory. The upper memory area is mainly used by the system hardware. On computers with a 386 or greater processor, this upper memory area can be used for device drivers or memory resident programs. Since many programs today require memory beyond 1 megabyte, one of the easiest ways to increase the size of the memory available to you is to utilize extended memory. Your computer's ability to process information or operate in the extended memory area is different than in conventional memory. Also, if the program you are running is not designed to use extended memory, then what do you do with this additional memory area? With MS-DOS 6.0, you can use it to increase the computer's speed. Keep in mind that MS-DOS can operate in the extended memory area. So, if you wanted to chisel out more room in your conventional memory, you could tell DOS to stay in the extended memory area. How? Well, one way is to install a memory management program to control the memory area. But where do you get one of those, you ask? MS-DOS 6.0 includes an extended memory manager program called HighMem.sys. On a computer with extended memory available, the DOS setup program installs MS-DOS in the first 64 kilobytes of extended memory. With DOS in this high memory area, more conventional memory is available for programs. Using extended memory as the habitat for DOS is a great way to relieve crowded space in the conventional memory area. Another way to increase the RAM memory storage capacity of your computer is called expanded memory. Expanded memory is actually separate from the extended or conventional memory. It's more like a whole new storage area. Again, your applications must be designed to use expanded memory. The expanded memory area is created by adding an expanded memory board to the computer. The expanded memory board usually comes with its own memory management software. Expanded memory management software is like an airport control tower. It controls which programs can use the space at a particular time. By now, it should be obvious that memory space of any kind has to be properly managed to be of the most use. Keeping all these non-conventional memory areas coordinated is no small task. So MS-DOS 6.0 supplies an integrated memory manager to help the computer utilize all its memory resources. If you have a 386 or higher processor on your computer and extended memory, you may be able to free up conventional memory and make your programs run faster with an MS-DOS 6.0 utility called MemMaker. To maximize your computer's memory, at the DOS command prompt, type MemMaker. You will be prompted to choose between Express Setup or Custom Setup. If this is your first time optimizing your computer's memory, Express Setup will usually be able to automatically configure your system to free the maximum memory. I'll choose Express Setup and press Enter. MemMaker automatically diagnoses your system's requirements and makes the necessary changes. When MemMaker is finished and your system has rebooted, type Mem at the DOS prompt. Notice how MemMaker has redistributed memory usage to free up more conventional memory. Whenever you add new software to your system, it's a good idea to run MemMaker to ensure that you are getting the most out of your memory. In our last chapter, we'll look at several other disk management utilities unique to MS-DOS 6.0, designed to help you double the capacity of your hard disk, quickly back up that data, and easily check your disks for any nasty viruses. Some of the best features of MS-DOS 6.0 are the useful disk management utilities. These utilities for disk compression, disk optimization, backup, and antivirus protection used to be only available as expensive add-ons. Now, MS-DOS 6.0 takes some of the most popular utilities and includes them in this one cost-effective package. Leading the list of useful utilities is an integrated disk compression feature which makes it safe and easy to double the space on your hard disk. MS-DOS 6.0 calls this disk compression utility doublespace because it effectively doubles the space on your hard disk. Watch. From the DOS prompt, type CHKDSK for check disk. This will tell you the total disk space available, the amount of space being used by hidden files, directories, user files, and bad sectors, and will show how much free space is available. To install doublespace, quit all programs and return to the DOS prompt. Type DBL space and press enter. It is recommended that the first time you install doublespace, you use the Express Setup. So I'll press enter at the Express Setup option. Doublespace tells us how long it will take to compress our drive. When you are ready to continue, press C. Doublespace first scans your disk for errors. If doublespace finds any errors on your drive, it will stop the data compression and allow you to exit to DOS, where you can type check disk with a /F to correct the disk problems. After the problems are corrected, enter doublespace again and follow the same procedure. To fully compress the data on your drive, doublespace defragments all files and compresses them. This process can take several minutes or several hours, depending on the amount of data on your hard disk. When doublespace finishes compressing your hard drive, it will display how long it took and how much space is now available. Using doublespace can, in some cases, double the free space on your hard disk. Think of the savings that will make. By the way, I mentioned that doublespace defragments your files before compressing them, but you don't need to use doublespace to defragment or optimize your disk. MS-DOS 6.0 contains a disk optimization utility which will defragment your disk, called defrag. Think of your computer storing information in blocks which are laid end to end. If you work on one block and it grows in size, DOS places part of the block in the original space and the remainder in the first available free space. Over time, the block or file becomes fragmented into many segments located in different locations on your disk. This fragmentation causes the computer to slow down as it reads and writes information to the disk. Defrag puts all the fragments back together and places them in adjacent locations on your disk. Although doublespace and defrag are very safe, it is always a good idea to back up your data before trying anything new. Again, MS-DOS 6.0 can help you back up your data with an easy-to-use backup utility which will run from the DOS command or from within Windows. From the DOS command, type MS Backup and press Enter, or from Windows, double-click on the backup icon from the Microsoft Tools group in the Program Manager. The Microsoft Backup screen offers several choices on the type of backup to perform. A full backup, which will back up all the files you select, is the most complete and usually takes the most time. An incremental backup, which backs up only the files that have changed since your last full or incremental backup, works faster than a full backup because it does not back up all the files. Incremental backups preserve multiple versions of a file. The final type of backup is a differential backup, which is very similar to an incremental backup but only keeps the latest version of your files. Differential backups make restoring your data faster in case of a hard disk failure because there are less disks. Once you have selected the backup type, you can select the files you wish to back up. Microsoft Backup displays the total number of files to be backed up, the total bytes, an estimate of the number of floppy disks which will be needed, and the approximate length of time necessary to complete the backup. Before you begin your backup, DOS lets you select the files to be backed up, the backup settings, and several backup options. DOS then stores these selections in a setup file. This is very helpful if you repeatedly back up the same information. DOS also allows you to have several setup files. Another good feature found in the DOS backup are the backup catalogs. If you're lucky, you will never have to restore your backed up data. But if you should ever need to restore a file or an entire hard disk, the backup catalogs will let you pick and choose which files to restore. Now, after you've selected the files you wish to back up, select Start Backup Now. If this is the first time you have run backup, MS-DOS will run a compatibility test to ensure that backup is configured correctly for your system's hardware. Once you run the compatibility test, it will not be required again. As MS-DOS backs up your files, you will be prompted when to change diskettes, and when the backup process has finished, you will be able to relax and rest assured that if anything should happen to your files, you have a backup copy safe and ready to restore. As you gain more confidence using MS-DOS 6.0, you may want to install programs or copy files from electronic bulletin boards or from your friends. Although copying new files to your computer is usually a very safe activity, you should be aware that computer viruses love to hide in other people's files. A computer virus is designed to replicate and spread itself from computer to computer. Since some viruses are capable of deleting all the data on your computer, it's always a good idea to check any files before you copy them to your computer. At the DOS prompt, type MSAV for Microsoft Antivirus, or from Windows, click on the antivirus icon located in the Microsoft Tools application window. From the DOS or Windows screen, you can choose Detect, which will search the selected or current drive for a virus and prompt you for any action. Or you can choose Detect and Clean, which will search for a virus and automatically clean it from your disk. You can also select a new drive to check a floppy disk or another hard drive. And MS-DOS offers a wide variety of options to customize your virus detection. Well, that brings us to the end of our program on MS-DOS 6.0. We've covered a lot of ground, so I encourage you to review any section of this video for a better understanding of the concepts you might not have caught the first time. Most importantly, remember your Logic Notes booklet, your MS-DOS User's Guide, and the online help available within MS-DOS 6.0. Thanks for choosing MUSA Videos for your MS-DOS 6.0 training needs. And be sure to check out the other MUSA videos as you install more programs on your computer. Good luck and so long for now.